We will be starting a new book today, one of the most horrifying books I've ever read in my life, Trance, Formation of America by Cathy O'Brien. The True Life Story of a CIA Mind Control Slave by Cathy O'Brien with Mark Phillips. And I got it signed by her. Now then, let's find part one. Foreword by Mark Phillips. Liberty and Justice for All. Preamble to the United States Constitution. My name is Marquardt Mark Irving Phillips. Born May 17, 1943 in Nashville, Tennessee. I have no criminal record and I have never been adjudged insane. I am not a scholar, professional writer, or mental health physician. While I lack the official published academic credentials, I am recognized internationally by mental health and law enforcement professionals as an authority on secret science concerning external control of the mind. The purpose of part one of this book is to document how this reputation was gained. This brief and highly condensed contribution is intended to provide an understanding of why, when, and where I embarked on a study of the most secret technology known to man, trauma-based mind control. Through the publication of declassified United States government documents, our U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, admits that this ancient wizard's mechanism for control is so dangerous that most information pertaining to it must remain classified as top secret. As the employee of a DoD subcontractor with exposure to mind control research, I was required to sign an oath of secrecy. To this day, I am restricted by law from revealing certain specific information that directly pertained to my employment as, among other sensitive exposures, a U.S. DoD subcontractor in mind control research. This super-secret technology is an evolved system of remote human physical and psychological manipulation that has only recently been officially recognized by accredited mental health physicians for what is absolute mind control. The first encounter with mind control research began in the late 1960s in Atlanta, Georgia, on the Emory University campus at the Yerkes Primate Center. It was there that I learned about primate behavior modification, the basis for human mind control. Part one of this book is my attempt to impart an understanding of how this and other exposures would prepare me for the challenge of a lifetime. What I witnessed in terms of technology at the Yerkes Primate Center and other government-sponsored research facilities, combined with years of personal research into this science of mind manipulation, did not adequately prepare me for what I would be exposed to in 1988 through an unexpected chain of events. This exposure came in the form of personal acquaintance with the human results officially entitled by DoD as, among other cryptic file titles, MKUltra. I have outlined this noxious introduction in hopes that the material provided by one MKUltra survivor, Cathy O'Brien, will incite a legitimate federal investigation of her claims. I was able to liberate MKUltra victims Cathy O'Brien and her daughter Kelly from the invisible grip of the U.S. government's secret weapon of control. In the process, I also helped Cathy recover her mental and physical health. However, I have not been successful in enlisting the cooperation of my government to pursue the justice issue. There is a reason for this failure to obtain justice that you, the reader, need to know. I have been told repeatedly justice is not obtainable for reasons of national security. This book is primarily the autobiography of Cathy O'Brien, who did not volunteer for service for her country but was used her entire life against her innate voluntary but was used her entire life against her innate voluntary will for perpetuating criminal activity by many so-called leaders within the US government. These treasonous leaders did volunteer for political service from our country. They must be held accountable for their actions. Together, Kathy and I have dedicated our lives to the pursuit of justice and rehabilitation for her and Kelly, her daughter. All avenues for justice and rehabilitative relief have been blocked for reasons of national security. The question arises, whose security? Kathy O'Brien provides the logical answer. Perhaps after reading this work, you will inspire others to read it. Collectively, as patriots, we can make a positive difference for Kathy and Kelly, our government, and humanity by having our voices heard. In my opinion, our great United States Constitution does not need to be amended. It needs to be enforced. The grim reality we must all embrace is that there is, in human terms, no justice and no revenge adequate to equal what these two and many other victims of this U.S. government secret weapon experienced. The only remaining remnant of opportunity for justice for these survivors would derive from a public forum expose of what they experienced. What these survivors need to witness is the mass dissemination of their story and a radical positive change in their government's management of secrets. This would be acceptable, though belated, substitute for justice. Their hope lies in the belief that truth lives a wretched life, but always survives a lie. Anonymous. Chapter 1. Mind control by any other name. Sometimes words or groups of words found in the English language have many definitions or meanings. Within each meaning there may be different logical and literal perceptions of the application of a given word. However, the word mind control usually conjure up a single response. This is most unfortunate due to the vast differences of perception contained within the reference. For example, if you have access to a late 1980s Random House or later Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary and reference mind control, you will notice there is a conspicuous absence of a listing. Should you go one step further and secure a college professor's teaching copy of Oxford's Companion, Oxford's Companion, I gotta reread that again. Should you go one step further and secure a college professor's teaching copy of Oxford's Companion to the Mind, Oxford Press 1987, you can reference practically anything concerning research of the mind, sans a reference to mind control. Perhaps you may now realize that through Random House, Webster, and Oxford Press omissions, you are a victim of control. Mind control is sometimes loosely defined as information control. This being one of many accepted ways to define the term should immediately raise questions of distrust toward your information sources. Since what we think is based on what we learn, manipulation of a mind or nation of minds can be accomplished through control of information. With thought control being a result of information control, many avid researchers of mind sciences simply label it as soft mind control. These days, we live in a world in which the continued existence of multinational businesses and governments depends upon instant communications. However, with consideration to the so-called problem of information overload, it would appear to most people that we hear and see enough to make rational decisions concerning our individual lives. Unfortunately, this is not true. we do not know, as evidenced by mind control atrocities, is quickly destroying society as we have known it. The answer to this problem is glaringly apparent. We, as citizens of a supposedly free country, should not permit our government to restrict any information that protects criminal activity under the guise of national security. Secret knowledge equals power, and the end result being control. Therefore, despite the deliberate efforts of those persons in control of national media information management who are not media employees, results of secret mind control projects gone awry have been leaking out for years through the media. People are literally waking up to the mind control reality because there is an obvious lack of logical explanation for certain sensational news events. What really happened at Jim Jones' Jonestown, and with Sirhan, John Hinckley, and Lee Harvey Oswald? And more importantly, why did it happen? The simple common denominator existing among these persons has been publicly stated by the media, based on research of their medical histories, to be mind control. In reality, information control is but one component of mind control, whereas brainwashing, a term coined by an investigative journalist writing about Korean War POWs around 1951, described the results of what the Chinese regarded as thought reform. The term brainwashing denotes to most people the destruction of a person's memory. The slang term continues to be used by the news media in place of encompassing term. I gotta read that over again, don't I? The term brainwashing denotes to most people the destruction of a person's memory. The slang continues to be used by the news media in place of all-encompassing term mind control. In reality, applied brainwashing techniques are similar to those used in trauma-based behavior modification. During the past 3 decades, a significant number of religious groups worldwide have been cited by the mainstream news media as destructive cults. An emphasis on the word destructive is necessary in defining these groups as cults. Random House Dictionary defines cult as a particular system of religious worship. By this definition, the word cult would encompass all religions. These so-called destructive cults have been publicly denounced by the news media for using brainwashing, thought reform, and mind manipulation tactics on their believers. However, there is an obvious lack of expressed concern by these same media as they fail to address the underlying issues of mind control, the power basis for abuse. Perhaps the reporting news media cannot, for some reason, publicly open the proverbial Pandora's box. It is plausible then to consider that closer scrutiny by the media and the public of these destructive cults leadership could reveal a solid connection to government-sponsored mind control research. These are questions that, in themselves properly addressed, would provide important answers to this social epidemic involving physical and psychological abuse. The answers that an in-depth professional investigation would provide could be the first step in resolving the rash of problems that destructive cults, serial killers, and sexual child abuse thrust upon society. As consumers of national news media supplied information, we continue to accept half-truths, which in this case scenario is seeing and hearing only what results from mass mind manipulation. Historians provide us a glimpse into the future through recorded events of the past. It appears that throughout recorded history, man has towards the end of each millennium returned to a focus on certain types of bizarre human behavior. For example, there has been in the past 150 years of resurgence of widespread interest in the occult black arts, which include Satanism or Luciferian religions. These constitutionally protected religions used trauma to control the minds of their followers. Mind control practices within the occult groups, according to the survivors adjudged credible and law enforcement officials, have been accredited with a bridging the gap between applied science and shamanism. Occultism as a manner of religious expression has been around for thousands of years. Only in the last 150 years has science aggressively pursued the truths regarding mind manipulation hidden within the occult belief system themselves. According to Random House Dictionary, occultism is the practice of alleged sciences claiming knowledge of supernatural agencies which are beyond the range of ordinary knowledge. Once again, a reminder that secret knowledge equals power. In 1971, New York Times reported a story on the Central Intelligence Agency and occult research, the basis of which was gained through a collection of documents released by the U.S. Government Printing Office under the Freedom of Information Act. This was a report to Congress and clearly showed that the CIA was interested in the cause and effects. The CIA was interested in the cause and effect clinical findings that occult religious practices have on the black arts practitioner and or the observer's mind. Of particular interest to the CIA were heightened levels of suggestibility that certain occult rituals produced in the minds of practitioners. Cannibalism and blood rituals were ranked highest in the order of importance to their research. Behavioral psychology teaches us that control of human suggestibility is recognized as the fundamental building block for external control of the mind. This suggestibility factor alone potentially creates a human rights legal issue when we consider constructing laws to protect people from overt or covert mind control practices. Consideration to the human suggestibility factor could result in all forms of consumer-oriented service and or product advertising becoming illegal. Advertising and the marketing of services and or products through communications can be justifiably defined as a type of psychological manipulation, thought reform and or mind manipulation, which results in a form of behavior modification. A Patriot friend, Stephen Jacobson, published his book entitled Mind Control in America in 1985, eloquently exposing the science of mind manipulation through advertising. The basis for successfully modifying human behavior requires mind manipulation techniques that, when expertly applied through advertising media, become a form of soft mind control. Factoring in suggestibility through the tactile senses as the Achilles heel of the human race renders everyone vulnerable to becoming, on some level, a victim of soft mind control. The controversy of what is and what is not mind control rages on among scholars in the schools of law, human rights, and mental health, all while the confusion of issues provide a form of legal protection for practitioners of trauma-based mind control, the only known form of remote human control that is absolute. All other forms of mind control include chemical and electronic manipulations, are considered by mind control experts as temporary. There are laws protecting U.S. citizens' rights to practice their religious beliefs and freedom of speech. There are no laws which specifically protect leaders of destructive cults and/or practitioners of trauma-based mind control. However, because of the U.S. government's use of mind control and the broad diversity of legal opinion concerning the accepted limits of free speech and religious practices, the legal loopholes for criminal employing mind control techniques on their flocks for personal gain remain open. For every problem there exists a solution. The formula for problem solving rests firmly on the quality of supporting research information concerning the nature of the problem. Legislating laws specifically to protect people from mind control abuses would be futile. Practically every civilized society in existence has some law and/or group of laws which would protect the people and punish the practitioners of mind control. Laws are enforced according to lawmakers' interpretations of the specific legal language. The lack of enforcement of laws already on the books that could protect us from mind control abuses stems from applied legal interpretations and cover-ups of survivor testimony by the CIA and National Security Agency for reasons of national security. Mind control atrocities, if committed by anyone who could be linked to government-sponsored projects, are typically ignored and covered up. Access to the courts by these hapless survivors is thus stonewalled by governments paid so-called legal experts who receive their orders from the National Security Agency. Defining the term mind control is akin to defining the limits of the 1947 National Security Act. The basis for the solution to the national security controversy is simple. It is known as truth logically applied. It is an obvious truth that the National Security Agency has been interpreted not to guard the integrity of military secrets, but instead to protect criminal activity of the highest order. Repeat of this act and replacement with the established rules of military conduct concerning national security that do not infringe upon the constitutional rights of American citizenry or the rights of its allies would result in compliance with the Constitution. There is Chapter 1. Let us see how far Chapter 2 goes on before I feel like reading it. We're going to have to do this tomorrow.